Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Weekend Wrap Up here on June 15th, 2024. I'm David Thomas. With me is Josh Blevins. Josh, it's been a crazy week again. A lot of stuff going on.
Been a busy week. I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
Lot going on this week.
Yeah, it seems like the last 4 weeks, Josh, that we have just had something nonstop.
It has. Yeah, one day right after another. Hits just keep on coming.
I know it. Lots of news to talk about. Lots of things happening in our city and county government. We'll be going over that. But before we do, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance. We'll be right back.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
We'd like to thank Dennis Young Insurance for being our sponsor here on the Weekend Wrap Up. And Josh, there's some good folks out there. So for all your insurance needs, go check out Dennis Young Insurance out on Madison Street. Well, Josh, you've been out and about again this week in the middle of a lot of meetings and a lot of events. So why don't you hit the ground running here?
Here we go. First off, before we get into the news of the past week, we've mentioned before that we're here live on the air and we make mistakes every once in a while. Yep. We're not perfect. Hard to believe. I know we look perfect, but we're not.
Yeah.
And last week on the show, we had actually a pretty heated discussion about the fact that the county prisoners were no longer being provided to City Public Works.
Yeah, I was a little unhinged.
You're a little upset. And we're here this week to apologize and make some clarification on that. I had a great conversation with our Chief Deputy, Nikki Elliott, this week, and there were some very specific reasons that they've been having trouble getting enough prisoners to go out on these work crews. They got some political pressure on the fact that there weren't enough crews out picking up trash on the county roads. And then there's this new ICE rule that they've been following where they have to report everybody that's non-U.S. born to ICE. And believe it or not, ICE has actually been putting holds on a lot of those people and taking them into custody, federal custody.
Yeah.
So between those two things, they have had an actual shortage of prisoners to send out on work crews, but we were able to get our chief deputy in contact with our head of public works, and they've had a conversation, and the sheriff's department is actually going to give them some assistance on trying to get them more than they were getting, which they were getting zero. So anything more than zero is going to be more than what they were getting. But we just want to go on again and apologize and clarify what went on there.
Yeah.
And we made an assumption, and you know what they say about making an assumption. And we'll try not to assume anymore.
But,
next time we'll call
but
first.
I'll say this. That was what lit my fuse last week. But honestly, the friction's still there.
Oh, okay. The underlying issue
this wasn't the
is still
cause.
there.
This wasn't the cause because of friction.
Not the cause,
but there's friction, and the lawsuit's still intact.
We'll get to that later today.
I stand on that.
Yeah, there's still issues that need to be fixed there. But this very specific particular issue did not fall into that.
Yeah,
so
I appreciate. Here's the thing about it: we appreciate people pointing out these things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that people aren't misled or something's misrepresented. So it's good to know.
Right.
And if we can just get that information out of what's really taking place, that's what our goal is here.
Oh yeah, and communication is, the key to this whole thing. Getting them talking now, they know what's going on.
Right.
I don't want to lessen what we did, but we weren't the only ones that assumed the cause was this. And by clearing that up, hopefully that helps us going forward.
Right.
So
that's good.
And then right before we go into last week's news, just want to mention, if you ever have gone online and said there's nothing to do in the town of Shelbyville, today is not the day to make that claim, because right now, as we're speaking, or later today, we've got the RC Cola Moon Pie Festival going on in Bell Buckle.
Right.
We've got the police car show going on over at the Shelbyville Central High School until 2 o'clock.
Cops and Riders,
I think it's called. Yeah. We've got Juneteenth happening on the square. The parade should have started just as we went on the air, and they've got opening ceremonies at 11.
They got a parade?
They got a parade. Yeah, they were lining up. I drove around the square when I came. They were lining up, got a parade. And the the whole east side of the square is full of booths, so there's stuff to do there. I think until
Full of what?
4, like
Vendors?
vendors,
Wow,
booths,
okay.
yeah, that kind of thing. And I think they have stuff going on till at least 3 or 4 in the afternoon, maybe later. And then we got a message from the owner of our new Shelbyville Supermercado yesterday or the day before, and he's going ahead and having his big grand opening today from 4 to 6. He's going to have bouncy houses and prizes and, you know, stuff for kids, stuff for the family. So if you ever say there's nothing to do in town, today's not the day. There's plenty going on.
Going in that store is an event.
Oh,
just going and visiting. That place is awesome.
Yeah, they got all kinds of stuff in there. You can get ice cream, you can get your food. Their meat counter is, I mean, there's no meat counter like at any other grocery store in town.
I mean, that's an asset to the city of Shelbyville.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So it's a great place, and I'll be there at that grand opening. I'm going to try to get to the opening ceremonies of Juneteenth here in a few minutes. So a lot going on.
So Josh, I'm not going to drag us. You got to go.
We got to keep moving. So. All right. So big city and county events of the week. Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. was an event that we didn't mention last week because it didn't fall under the Open Meetings Act. Right. This was not a meeting that was government where they were voting on anything. This was the Duck Sand Safety Summit, where we had members of our emergency management, of our city fire department, of our law enforcement got together with the businesses in the area of the new Duck Sand electrolyte plant, chemical plant, if you will, and discussed planning and what they would do in the case of some kind of emergency over there. Because this place is coming down the pike. It's coming soon. We'll discuss it more later in the show, but it looks like it's going to happen. And if something were to go sideways over there, like a fire or a chemical spill or something, the people that are right there in the area, they need to have a plan in place. Yeah. So it's too late if you get the call and there's fire and you don't have a plan. So
there were people there from the hospital,
Walmart distribution center, sheriff's department, nearest green, Aludyne US, airport. I'm sure I'm leaving people off. No, I did see some comments from people that live in the area say, hey, why didn't I get an invitation? This was for, I can't remember exactly what they called it, but these were locations that had a high density of people in them at any given time. They are going to reach out to local residents later on and give them, you know, kind of what their plan would be. But this is a location that's going to have, you know, 40, 50, 100, 200 people in it. And they might need to have a plan in place. There were 2 different plans. They want them each to set up an evacuation plan in case if there's a fire there. A lot of the chemicals require a half-mile evacuation zone. If it's something smaller like a chemical spill or a small fire, there are also shelter-in-place plans they need to have where they could lock down their building, keep everybody inside, turn off the HVAC, you know, just stop airflow, you know, until they get that cleaned up.
So within this circle, we've got our jail, the Justice Center.
Within the circle, we've got our jail. And that was, you know, one of the bigger questions we had on the front end when we first heard about this a few weeks ago, the safety concerns. And I have had some conversations with some people connected to the jail. And unfortunately, they've decided you can't evacuate a jail with 300 prisoners locked up and the number of personnel that are on site at any given time. There's just no feasible way to evacuate our jail. So the plan that should be worked by the county at some point that they're working on, I believe, is a lockdown plan where they would lock all the prisoners into their cells. They would shut off airflow to the building, shut down their HVAC system. So there's no, you know, nothing can get in from the outside as far as chemicals and whatnot. And hope and pray the situation
just don't happen.
Clears quickly. So, and then, I hope it doesn't ever happen.
You never want to see something like that happen because it's not good. It's just, it's just bad for a lot of different reasons, obvious reasons. Yeah. And we just hope, but you have to be prepared in case it does.
Yeah. And fire is not the only thing that can happen. There were several other, you know, scenarios mentioned at the meeting. Say you got a truck full of chemicals trying to pull out onto 231 from there and it gets, you know, T-boned by another car or vehicle or something. You get a big spill there. And probably the worst case scenario would be a tornado on that side of town. If you had a tornado blow through there and it hit Walmart distribution center and then also Duck Sand, which are right there in proximity to each other, the number of chemicals and things that could be mixed in the air, I mean,
who knows
what would happen.
It's just a big cocktail of mess.
It would just be a mess. So obviously hoping for the best, but you got to plan for the worst. And
Right.
and at least our EMA and our fire, they're pushing and they're working on plans. They're not just sitting around waiting for something to happen. They're actually being proactive. So that part's good. Later the same evening, we had our Bedford County Board of Commissioners meeting. One of the shortest meetings they've had.
It was 20 minutes, man. And
maybe 20 total.
Man, by the time I got my popcorn out, it was over.
It was over. There wasn't a whole lot on the agenda. We thought 2 issues would be at least draw some discussion. One of the 2 drew none, which is they elected Keith Davis as our new commissioner to replace Julie Sanders, who moved to Florida. And there were 3 people that had put their hat in the ring to be nominated. And the other 2, they didn't even get a nomination. So
it was like
Keith Davis' name brought up.
Then crickets.
Everybody was quiet. Everybody had to go around yes or no. Everybody was a yes, and he was in, and they swore him in, and he took his seat.
So Keith is in that spot.
Keith is in that spot. We'll see going forward how Mr. Davis does, but we wish him well and hope he hope he does a great job representing his constituents. And then the other issue, which we thought would draw some discussion, it did actually draw quite a bit of discussion, but real controversy, was adding veterans parking back to the courthouse. So it had been there when they redid the courthouse a few years ago. Apparently somebody left the signs in a closet somewhere. Nobody knows where the sign went. They said there was a sign. The sign got lost.
I mean, this borderline, and it was some controversy over the last 2 weeks over 2 parking places, and everybody was for it. And really, the controversy wasn't even necessary.
It was kind of silly. But the big discussion was where we're going to put them around the courthouse. So at first we were going to put them both in front of the Veterans Monument there. But then you realized if you're handicapped, that's not the best place to come into the building from. So they finally decided they're going to have one veteran spot in front of the monument there, which there'd never been one at that location before. They never were able to figure out where the original sign was at on the building. Nobody remembered. And then the handicap spot is going to go on the corner by where the ramp is at for handicap access to the building, which makes
it took us a month to get 2 parking places
to figure that out. And it probably honestly never should have been at any of those meetings. Probably should have just happened administratively, but it gave us something to talk about.
It gave us and honestly, it gave us some good publicity for the veterans that they've got some spots up there. That give them access to where they need to be in their office.
Right. So, any veterans in the area that don't know, we have a veterans office there in the basement, and they provide services to local veterans. I think they have short hours. I want to say they're like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Check me on that on their website. But they help, Bedford County veterans if they're looking to get benefits or services. And, a lot of that's hard to navigate. Federal government, everything in government's hard to navigate. So we actually have somebody there specifically to help veterans in the area navigate getting their benefits and, getting tied into those kind of things. So that was it for Tuesday. That was enough for one day. Wednesday morning, we had the ever exciting ribbon cutting on North Britain Street. So the road was closed for 3 years, I guess, because there was a big hole in the road. There was drainage under the road that collapsed, and they fixed it. And I think we're at $992,000.
Right at $1 million.
Right at $1 million to fix it. So they decided we spent $1 million. Let's have a ribbon cutting.
Man, I would love to sell scissors around this place. We got more ribbon cuttings than any other town in America, I promise you.
Yeah, and as I was telling David before the show, this particular ribbon cutting, every single media outlet in town, which we're not a big town.
Let me tell you something.
Was at this ribbon cutting.
This is important, but I'm not sure why. I mean, honestly, I know I get it. We've opened the road back up, but there must be a pot of gold up in there somewhere.
It's $1 million tunnel. So, we don't have many $1 million tunnels in town, although we do have another one that we'll talk about in a minute.
But Josh, you were privileged to be there.
I was there. We actually, if you go on our post, we have the entire 10-minute ceremony. We recorded it on video that you can watch the whole video. If you want to hear what was said, it's all on our Facebook. So,
well, I know everybody business-wise that has to use that is proud it's open.
Oh yeah, the Capri, Coffee Beans, all those businesses in there. I mean, I'm sure they've hated this for years, and now it's open, as it should have been a long time ago. So that part is good. Literally later in the day, like 2 hours later, I barely got home and turned around and came back. We had our second city budget workshop Wednesday afternoon at noon. And I'd never been to city budget discussions before. I'd been to county last year. And we did something a little bit interesting. I don't know if this is what we do it every year, or it was kind of like an auction.
Yeah.
We had a list items, 2 pages of what all the departments wanted. And we went around and everybody raised their hand.
Yeah.
Give me $1, $2, $3, $4. Everybody raised their hand and decided on which items the council thought were necessary for next year and which items they thought were not necessary.
Hey, it's good to see open dialogue like that.
It was open. It was interesting. I don't know. Again, I've never seen that in a budget hearing.
And no fights broke out or anything.
No fights. There was a little bit of discussion, but no fights. 3 of our city departments, street, cemetery, and the airport, they all wanted a skid steer and a track loader. And I guess we decided we could only afford one. So after some debate on all of them, the cemetery got one, and the airport and streets department, I guess they get to borrow the one from the cemetery.
So they're going to share it.
I guess they're going to share it. Now, streets has one already, but I think maybe it was in rough shape and they needed a new one.
Yeah.
And the airport did not have one. So the airport definitely is going to be borrowing from the cemetery.
Yeah.
So they decided, I guess, that the cemetery would use it the most regularly of those.
Those are handy little tools. I mean,
oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean,
they
easy to operate and they can do a lot of things. So.
Yeah. Our cemetery director mentioned they have a tractor right now, and I think it takes 3 trips of carrying dirt from across the cemetery to fill in a grave every time they do a burial. So this is going to speed that up for them. One positive thing that was approved that actually was not on the list that they thought they were going to approve, we got a hot box for pothole repair. That's where currently we're using cold mix to fill in our potholes. Right. As those of us who live in Union Station know, that stuff don't last.
It just flies right out.
We've got a particular set of potholes right near the entrance where water pools. Every time we have a heavy rain event, all that cold mix gets washed away. And
this allows that hot tar to get in there
and actually stay. So now kudos to our public works. They come out and fill it every time that it goes bad, but they're out there a lot filling the same potholes over and over.
This is a longer term cure.
This is a longer term fix. And it wasn't overly expensive. I want to say $40,000. I didn't write that down, but it's a good improvement, for a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah.
It's going to be noticeable around town for people that have potholes that are regularly filled. You should be able to notice next year that they're able to fill them and they last longer without them having to come back and fill the same one over and over again. So, and on the street side of things, council decided to give an extra $500,000 for paving next year. So we've been spending $600,000 on paving our streets, and as everyone knows, our streets are not in the best shape.
Yeah, this will give you an roughly extra 2 miles, 2.1 miles of paving
of road around. So I mean, it's almost doubled our budget. So we got $1.1 million.
A mile, 2.5 or little over 2 miles in the city is a lot. Now in the county, that's not very much, but in the city, that covers some ground. Yeah,
it's going to cover some ground. So that's a plus that hopefully people will notice by this time, budget time next year.
Yeah,
they can say, hey, there's been more paving going on in town. So a couple items that got a no from the council that we want to discuss, which we talked a lot last week about the drone. The drone was a no, as was the truck to charge the drone. After hearing a lot of the discussion around the drone, why the drone's being used, again, they didn't ask us to vote, so we didn't get to cast the vote. We don't get a vote.
Okay, gosh.
But if I would have voted, I'm going to say I would have been a yes on the drone.
On the drone, but not the truck.
Not the truck. I would have been a yes on the drone. I'll tell you why. The flume, which we had a lot of discussion in both meetings about the flume, the primary or one of the main purposes of the drone was surveys of the flume.
Right.
The flume, as you and I discussed before we came on the air, has been there how many years? Forever.
Oh, it's probably 90 years old or maybe more. Yeah. I know there's some historians and probably some people in government know the exact.
Long time.
It's in bad shape.
It's past its useful life. And in our budget packet were capital expenditures for the last 6 years. And the last 2 times that thing has failed, one time it cost us over $1 million. The other time it was $2.5 million. And those were, surprise, the ground collapsed.
Yeah.
So this is something we probably should have been proactive on earlier than we are now. And I don't see that a $41,000 expense to be proactive and be on top of that is something that we maybe should have passed over.
I would vote for the drone and not the truck because like you mentioned last week, we can buy a $1,000 generator and
to charge the drone.
Get that thing covered up. And what this drone would do, it's kind of scary. You throw that drone in there with some high-tech software,
Right.
You might find something out you don't want to know about, but you also could prevent a tragedy.
Oh yeah, and you're going to know beforehand rather
Yeah.
than waiting for the road to collapse and then you got to pay. And you got for $2.5 million 5 or 6 years ago. That's after inflation now. That's a $5 million fix today or more. And we don't need that popping up out of thin air. So that,
at least I'm afraid it's going to.
It could be, yeah. So yeah, proactive.
We're on borrowed time there.
We're on borrowed time on the flume, and I think being proactive on that, is something. Since they didn't pay, I mean, they have one more chance. They could sneak in there. I don't think they're going to, but I sure for the next budget. I mean, they got to find a way to do something because they're paying $21,000 per survey to get someone else to go up and survey that flume just once a year. And we had even questioned last week if that included engineering, and we heard from the fire chief at the meeting that the $21,000 is just the cost of actually flying somebody in and out of there.
Yeah.
We've got our own city engineer that does the engineering part and looks for problems before they happen.
I'm sure they have a pretty good idea of where the problem areas are.
Right. Yeah. But having this to fly in and out of there,
it.
Yeah, if you could do that, once a quarter, twice a year. And be ahead of that rather than again having a major street in town collapse and be shut down for months.
It could happen. It's happened. It happened out on North Main, just right there at the intersection. It's it's
over in front of the police station. I think one time.
And then on down toward the veterinary clinic, right there at the bank. That area at one time caved in. So it's past its life.
Yeah,
it's dead.
Everybody agrees it's past its lifespan. So I think we need to get on that and be more proactive.
You're
rather
talking
than
about
waiting.
Major expenditure here.
Yeah, very expensive.
Everybody might as well be prepared for it. It's coming.
Be prepared. And then the last item that they got to on the agenda were the employee raises. We had talked last week. The county is doing 4% across the board raise, plus they do an automatic 1% step.
That's required by the state.
Yeah, so which gets them to 5% total. School board's doing the same thing. So we kind of expected the city to at least hit that 4% number. And honestly, they started the voting down at 2%, which wasn't even on the list of choices. 2% did not draw enough votes. They tried 4%. They couldn't get 3 votes. So they settled on the 3%, which you had council members Turnbow, Christie, and Gary Hale voted for that. And because it was a 3-3 tie, the mayor got to break the tie, and he voted for the 3%. So they're going with 3%. Inflation's, I don't know what inflation is, but it's high. I mean, every time you go to the store, I think it's higher than 3%. And you're competing for a lot of these jobs, especially in first responders, police and fire. You're directly competing with your county on these.
Yes.
So you're liable to, and actually the city manager gave a little speech afterwards saying, I mean, expect, what he called leakage, I think. I mean, you're going to have some people that may leave. I understand 1% is not a lot, but I would have, $150,000 is the dollar difference. So if that extra 1%,
here's
maybe
my
you
question:
could have found
if you're
something.
happy with your job and you get a 3% raise, and we're expecting 4%, is that 1% enough to make you hate your job all of a sudden?
No, it's not. But it's also a matter of recognizing your employees.
I get that. And here's the thing about it: there's a lot of small businesses out here that can't give any raises.
Right,
and there's a wide gamut out there. So the fact that they're giving raises in this time where everybody's got to watch their money, I think it's generous to do. Now, having different percentages here and there. I mean, each entity is different. They can do whatever they see fit, and that's the way the city council didn't choose to go with the county's what they
they didn't choose to match for sure. So
I mean, we might see a couple of people go work for the county. I don't know, but it is what it is, and we appreciate all of them. And I think I think the council is saying we appreciate you, so we're giving you a 3% raise. And
again,
because somebody voted against it,
right?
That doesn't mean they don't appreciate you. They're just looking for the taxpayer money.
Right? Yeah, some of them are looking for taxpayer, and again, they didn't give us a vote. But had I had a vote, I think I would have probably gone with the 4% at least. Just again, $150,000 out of this budget is not a huge swing one way or the other.
Yeah,
I mean that's one extra skid steer or one nice truck or something out of the budget. I'm sure they could have found the space.
A couple state fees for inspections.
Yeah, a couple of inspections. We'll get there in just a second. So, all right, Thursday evening, we had the city council meeting. our once a month big council meeting where they actually vote on things. And right off the top, we had an interesting announcement, which we put out there as soon as we heard it. We got some bullets coming to town.
Bullets
David.
are here. They're
Borough
here.
Bullets is moving to town on what was the street?
West Jackson Street.
West
The
Jackson
old
Street.
Jensen's
Pencil Factory.
pencil factory.
Yep.
Jensen's was there for years. They closed in 2008, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And the building's been sitting there ever since, and they're renovating it from what I see.
Yes. Yeah. They actually did a post yesterday that we reposted. Yeah, they're renovating an old building, which is great because then you've got a building that's been sitting there that's going to get a new life, and then we've also got a new small business in town. Now several people post on there and ask us questions. How many people are you hiring? We don't know any of that.
Right.
I do know from what I heard, it seems like a small business. This is
is a family business.
Yeah,
It's
this is not a big, 5,000 employee
And
factory.
honestly, I want to put a
family
plug in
operation.
for a business like this.
Yeah.
Nobody begged them to come.
No.
Nobody dangled a carrot to get them here. They
Right.
chose
They chose to move
Shelbyville,
here.
the city of Shelbyville, to bring their business here. They saw something that they liked, so they brought
Yep.
their business here. It happened organically.
Yeah.
These people need to be supported.
Yeah.
I'm buying my bullets from them.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Actually, I went on their website. There's already 2 places in town selling their bullets, including
Shelbyville Lumber,
Lumber
SLC,
and
Don's Palm.
yeah, there's a pawn shop over by Dairy Queen, I think, that was selling them as
Oh,
well.
okay,
So,
okay.
TNT or something.
TNT. Yeah.
Yeah, they're also selling it. So if you see Burrow Bullets in the store, buy them because they're about to
Right.
be local. So yeah, support local, absolutely. Next up on their agenda, there had been a lot of back and forth on the limit that departments or purchasing could spend before they had to go out for a bid, before they had to come back to the
Right.
council. And they were at $15,000. The state allowed them to go up to 50. And as we kind of talked about last week, they picked a middle number. They went
Nice
with
compromise.
30,000. They
Nice
picked a nice
compromise,
compromise at $30,000 that allows them not have to go back and forth so much to the council for little things, which I realize 30,000 seems like a lot, but
But this is for a budgeted item.
yeah, this is an item that's already in the
Yeah.
budget. This could be a mower or something. So this just allows them a few more things that they can still, they've got, even though they're not getting bids on this, they still go out and get, a couple quotes and whatnot.
Right.
And there's multiple sets of eyes. This isn't just one department head going out and telling his buddy Bob, hey,
Yeah.
you got a mower you want
Yeah.
to sell me. This is,
Yeah.
there's still some checks and balances here, but this just kind of simplifies
Right.
the process on items that really everything that cost, $16,000 didn't need to be coming up for a council vote. That just slows everything down. They only vote once a month for
Right.
things. So
Right.
yeah, it's just cleaned things up a little bit. And then the item that again brought the most pre-meeting controversy, but not as much in the meeting, was 5-1. They passed the new ordinance that made it illegal to camp or store personal property on government land, basically. And there were a ton of Facebook chatter ahead of the meeting. So everybody was again expecting a big turnout.
Yeah.
And we had two people showed up and spoke in the public comment period. There was a little more discussion among the council and the city attorney. They kind of explained this, which we had talked about for a few weeks, which is this is not some kind of a major, it's not a felony. They're not locking these people up. This was an extra tool for police to be able to
This was done for the police to
issue a ticket
and
or something
humanely-
small without
humanely
having to
deal,
lock
yeah.
somebody up for being camped down by the river. It was, a much simpler thing. They even talked about there's the new state anti-camping law.
Oh yeah.
And if you get
It's
caught
harsher.
under that, it's a Class E felony. You
Yeah.
can get up to 6 years in prison. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not doing that for, somebody camping by the river. So this again is at most a $50 fine. A lot of online backlash ahead of it, but it really, I don't think was that, that bad of a thing. And fortunately, the council saw that in 5-1. They voted.
Yeah, I want to throw out something real quick. We've got Steve Jordan's commenting and Stephen Gall's watching, and there's some other people that have posted a text here or in our chat. We'll get to that, Steve. Just a little bit. We'll address the things that you've thrown up at the end. But just wanted to shout out to you folks. Thanks for watching.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just
No.
wanted to throw that out there.
All right, and it may already be on a rundown. We're getting close to the end, so maybe we'll hit it. So,
Right.
right after or soon after the anti-camping ordinance, we approved $50,000 more to our friends at I think was it Bass, Berry and Sims, Mr.
Don't-
Bass, Mr. Berry, Mr. Sims.
Don't do
I
that
know this
again.
is your favorite part of the discussion. We're $50,000 in taxpayer money to sue ourselves.
That'll last 2 weeks.
Actually, it said fiscal year 24, which
You
ends
wanna bet?
this month.
Hey, let me.
This month
Oh,
is the
okay.
end of
The end of the
fiscal year
month.
24.
Okay. So how much is in the budget for this?
For next year? I haven't heard discussion of how much we've allotted for them next year.
Yeah, that
So far,
paving-
we've
that-
just spent every couple months throwing more
Okay.
money.
Well, that
at them,
paving
so.
right there might disappear. I'm afraid.
You could probably spend that whole paving budget on attorneys at the rate we're moving. But they did approve with no discussion $50,000 more dollars to continue with the lawsuit of the city suing the county over the local option sales tax. I will say on the county budget this year, there's what I would consider a little bit of a poison pill in there. The state now on our education funding and our maintenance of effort, they have recognized the money that's in our debt services as part of our maintenance of effort.
Oh wow.
What that means is once you're in maintenance of effort, you can't go down.
Right.
So you set a maintenance
What's
of effort.
above that? If this, you can tap into that.
Well,
fund, or-
what that's going to do is if somehow the city won this lawsuit, the county can now say we have to raise your taxes because we have to meet this maintenance of effort number. So this
Man,
is
this
almost
just
a
gets
guarantee.
better and better and better.
It's almost a guaranteed tax raise now if the lawsuit goes through and the city wins. On the county side, they're going to say we're forced to raise your property tax because here's this maintenance of effort number. We have to hit this number next year, and the only way to hit the number is with more tax revenue.
That's fun.
So not only do the attorneys get a lot of money out of it, we could
Man,
get a built-in tax raise with.
we
no
have a
effort.
built-in tax raise with all these rooftops, don't we?
You would think we're getting some more out of that. So
Just saying.
yeah, we won't go there today.
No, we won't. We won't.
Yeah.
You're on a time crunch.
Yeah,
Josh.
no, we're good. And then the last thing that came up during the meeting, can you pull up clip 1? And we're going to hear there was an announcement that was not on the agenda before the meeting and got thrown in right. This was literally the last thing, and it came out of left field. And let's hear what we had to say.
With the mayor and city council of a letter that went to the state fire marshal dated on May 24th, 2024. This letter was sent out of concerns as we became closer to the certificate of occupancy process. There were some concerns about some plans that appeared to have been changed, including 300,000 gallon tank down to 100,000 gallon tank at what at the time was called Project Cardinal. We all now know it as Duxon Electric. On Monday, June 10th, we received a response from the state fire marshal's office. And the response says we have completed review of the chemicals and their quantities and have determined that this is not an occupancy that is required to be submitted according to the rules of the state fire marshal's office. However, we can accommodate the city's request for our office to review based on the numerous changes in the life safety and other issues in fire suppression. They go on to say the plan review fee will need to be paid prior to us issuing a review. And the fee is estimated to be anywhere from 50, could be up to 65,000. We don't know that exact fee.
Okay, Josh.
There you have it. We covered 2 weeks ago, I think, maybe 3 now. The city had sent a letter to the state fire marshal.
Right.
Saying, hey, we got a lot of concerns about this duck sand project. They had a list of concerns, which our city manager read off some of them there. And the state reviewed it, looked at it, and said, yeah, we're not so concerned as you are. But if you throw us $50,000 to $65,000, we'll really look at it seriously.
Yeah, they say basically they look at H1 and H2, not
Right.
H3 and H4, where we're at with this plant.
Yeah, they consider this one not as. I was a little honestly confused by the definition that our city attorney gave. She mentioned that H2 was flammable liquids, which we've got a lot of flammable chemicals in this. Maybe they're not liquid, maybe they're powder. We didn't get that deep into it. We definitely got a lot of flammable materials in this list, which we've gotten the list both from TDEC, and actually I got a newer list from the presentation that the fire department gave earlier this week. And there's plenty flammable going on there. But either way, for the state to review it, approximately $50,000 to $65,000. At the end of the discussion, which went on for quite a while, the city is going to go ahead and pay the review fee, and then they're first going to duck sand and saying, "Hey, this is your plant. Why don't you guys give us our money back?" And if they refuse, which honestly, on a $95 whatever $million project, this is a drop in the bucket. They should pretty easily write this check, especially if they want to get along.
But we gave them an out. We gave them an out when we said, "Oh, but if you don't, we'll pay for it." Right.
So if for some reason they were to refuse, which I think is pretty unlikely, but if they were, they offered a second option, which is the county drug us into this mess. It was 50-50. So let's bill the county for half of it. Yeah, because we're getting along so well. But that was their other alternative there. So either way, the state is going to be looking into the fire safety at the plant now.
And the way it sounds, Josh, this right here would satisfy getting an occupancy certificate.
Yeah, if everything from the state comes back and says, you look good and again, this is not an environmental impact study. We've heard so many requests for where's the environmental impact study. There's not going to be one from the state fire marshal. All they're going to look at is fire suppression.
Right.
So for $65,000, they're going to make sure that if there's a fire, they have the appropriate equipment to put the fire out.
Josh, this opens up a can of worms in my mind. And several people asked for this environmental impact study way at the front end of this project. Even
commissioners that aren't even on the commission anymore.
I mean, this goes back 4 years.
Yeah,
some of it. And the fact that ground was broke for a chemical plant to be built and there not be an environmental impact study done, it blows my mind.
Yeah, the most recent excuse we got, which I think was at the January commission meeting where Mr. Hooper spoke on it, he said that they got their permit from TDEC, which is not an environmental impact study. They got an air quality.
Right.
They passed all the whatever to get an air quality permit, and they're considering that good enough is, basically what they're at. They're saying TDEC approved the air quality based on these chemicals. They're allowed to emit so many VOCs per year into the ground, and everybody's happy. But
our state has pushed this type of factory in our state. Okay,
right.
For some reason they're foaming at the mouth to get these EV battery plants and the chemicals that go along with them here in Tennessee. And I get it, we need the industry, but we also don't need an environmental disaster sitting along beside the shiny things that we're building.
We don't want to be a Netflix movie in 10 years talking about what happened to the town and water quality and air quality.
It's almost like the state has covered their eyes on some of this just to get this, and this is dangerous.
There could definitely be a lot of dangers involved, and obviously environmental impact study would have been the first thing I would have thought.
Sure.
And it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
If there's a spill, what does it do to the water supply? I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah, you figure it can't be good though.
No,
I mean this is not stuff you want to be drinking or eating. So
no.
Yeah.
It's not on my snack list.
It's not on your snack list. They don't sell any of this at Kroger.
No.
So all right, and that was it for meetings that I've been to so far in the past week. But I think you had a couple of chat things that you wanted.
Yeah, Steve Jordan was asking about grants, federal grants for roads, and I know we have gotten grants. I don't know if it were federal or state.
We got a large state grant in the current budget year that we're still in. It was several million, at least a couple $1 million. And that's actually, I'm trying to think of what all they paid with that. There was a list. We even put it in an article one time. It was Fairfield Pike for sure was in that list.
Right.
I think it was Old Nashville Dirt Road, which is now Old Nashville Paved Road. As you like to say.
I know. I don't understand. We need to change that name.
There were at least two other ones, but it was a couple $1 million. But as we discussed earlier, paving per mile is so expensive that couple $1 million didn't actually take you very many miles.
Quick. Yeah, I think it's 200 and what is it, 230,000 for a mile?
Something like that. It's like 100 and some
Mark Clanton
thousand
put that
per lane mile, and then obviously you got at least two lanes in most roads. So, yeah, it's more expensive than you would expect, and the price keeps going up. So
without the grants we got, we'd be in worse shape now than we are.
Yeah.
So
and they are out there looking for grants, and they did get a grant, and they spent it this year, and I'm sure they'll continue looking for more going forward.
Yeah, but it's our money. We ought to get some of it back.
It's all at the end of the day, it's all taxpayer money.
I'm thankful that somebody's out there trying to do that.
Yeah, grant is not just magical money that falls out of the air. It still comes from taxpayers.
That's right. It comes out of our pocket.
Yeah. So, and but that's it for our wrap up of what happened in the past week, and we're going to talk about what's coming up next week. But before we do, let's hear from our sponsor one more time.
We'll hear from Dennis Young Insurance one more time.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Again, we want to thank Dennis Young Insurance for being our sponsor here on the Weekend Wrap Up. Josh, what's happening in the upcoming week? I know we have a federal holiday on Wednesday. Juneteenth is official. The banks and post office will not be running.
And actually, if you're in the city like I am and you're on Wednesday trash pickup, they're not picking your trash up on Wednesday. They're picking up on Tuesday.
So the city and county closed down as well?
Yeah, they are as well. So make sure you get your trash out the day before if you're in the city limits on normal Wednesday day. Trash pickup. But meeting wise in the upcoming week, Tuesday at 5:00, we have our monthly county committee meetings. I briefly looked at those agendas, didn't see anything too crazy in there. You never can tell, something could come out of left field, but those will be Tuesday at 5:00. They'll be on the county Facebook. No, they only put it on YouTube. They'll be on county YouTube. Right. And then we'll be there in person, of course.
I'm going to try to restream it. If I'm in a position where I can, I will definitely do that.
Yeah. And then if not, you can always, all those are open to the public. You can show up at the courthouse and they'll let you right in. There's not a ton of seating, but we don't get a ton of people at them. So but there is some seating.
But more people are watching.
Yeah, more people are watching online.
I've been trying to restream it on Facebook where everybody's hanging out. Right. And we're getting quite a few views there.
Yeah. So those are worth watching if you want to know what's going on in your county government. I mean, you're going to hear it there first because that's where it starts is at the committee level. So Wednesday at noon, a meeting that normally doesn't get a lot of coverage, but I'm going to try to go to it, is our Industrial Development Board is meeting Wednesday at noon in the courthouse, and they're going to be discussing a pilot program. I should know that acronym. It's something about payment in lieu of taxes. It's basically a tax break. Cooper Steel's bringing some kind of training facility into town that they've been working on for a while. And I guess it's going to generate enough jobs and enough revenue that they're going to ask for a property tax break, and that'll be discussed for that facility. Yeah. So we'll be at that meeting, and then Thursday at 6:00, another smaller meeting that I'm just going to. I'm a little curious about how these go on. This is the City Board of Zoning Appeals, and off Railroad Avenue, there's a rock quarry, 100 acres.
Right.
And that's not allowed in the zoning for that area. So every 5 years, that rock quarry has to come back before the Board of Zoning Appeals and get reapproved for another 5 years.
So
I would imagine it's probably a rubber stamp thing where they're just going to get it and there's not going to be much discussion. But there were no other meetings Thursday. I'm curious.
So
I'm going to go.
You're going to go check it out.
We'll let you know what happens. If anything exciting happens, we'll let you know, because that's another one that's not going to be on Facebook, YouTube, or anywhere. So,
well, I want to say this, Josh. Thank you for going to these meetings and getting down into numbers and into the crunching of what's taking place and giving an account of what's taking place so you can comment intelligently and I can sit here and shake my head and tag along. But we want to keep everybody informed about this stuff because this is really the news that matters.
Oh, absolutely.
And Shelbyville and Bedford County.
Yeah, and that's our whole goal here is transparency in government. And like I said, 2 of those 3 meetings we'll be at this week. They're not going to be live streamed anywhere. May or may not be an article about them in the paper, depending on if anybody from the paper shows up. So we just like to go and just find out what's going on in local government. If anything strikes our interest or we think people would be interested in what went on, we like to get the information out there. So
yeah, absolutely, for sure. But it's this week is not going to be quite as busy as the last 2 or 3, Josh.
We always say that, and then
I
something
know,
comes
I
out of
know.
left field. Don't say that. You're going to
I
jinx
know,
us,
I know.
David. So
All right. You got anything else for us today?
I think that's it. We'll be
All
back
right.
here, same time, same channel with the news that matters next Saturday morning, or you can watch us after the fact on Facebook or YouTube, either one.
Hey, share this with your friends, and also go to our website, shelbyvillenow.com. We try to keep everything up to date there. You can view these videos there as they come back out. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
So long.